And I'm going to close with a little section on myths and facts. A lot of people come and maybe exaggerate a little bit when they come to the microphone. So I want to talk about some myths and some facts. One myth is that the south view was always the most important view. But in fact, both views were equally important and equally depicted in postcards, flyers, and posters that were promoting the 1915 exposition. So both sides of the bridge are important. Both sides of the California quadrangle are important. Later, you may hear of something called the Lewis Plan. It's a plan that was submitted to the EIR as a suggestion from Bill Lewis, a renowned architect in town. It's been presented several times by more than Bill, and the assertion is made that it's a superior plan that creates a scenic pleasure drive through the park that has inconsequential impacts. Our project is based in facts. The EIR is extremely detailed and tells you that the Centennial Bridge does not comply with the Secretary of Interior Standards number 2 and 9 because it affects the spatial relationship of the California quadrangle. The very fact that the bridge is there as a large structure changes that set of spaces and therefore cannot comply with those two standards. That analysis has not been done here, but it's hard to believe that this will not have the same impacts. Another myth, the Centennial Bridge and the massive walls of the project destroy the California quadrangle and the iconic view. A fact, the Lewis Plan has taller and longer walls and cuts and fills that impact the north side of the quadrangle, the Cabrillo Bridge, the scenic 163 corridor, and zoo property in this location. In fact, this roadway that's drawn here is 38 feet higher than the natural grade in that location, and it sits on the zoo lease. In fact, the road in this location is more than 50 feet higher than the natural grade. Myth. The Centennial Road has massive walls and a ditch that destroy the park and fill Palm Canyon. We are not filling Palm Canyon. In fact, the Centennial Road is the same as the road that was approved in the precise plan. Has the same walls, the same grades, because the Centennial Road in the precise plan dipped down, so the walls are here and here, to go under this walkway. We're doing exactly the same thing, with the exception that we're adding the landscape deck that I've described. A fact, the Lewis Plan requires massive walls, cuts, and fills that are highly visible from Scenic Route 163 Scenic Corridor, that wall off Palm Canyon from 163 views, and cut and fill the south side of Palm Canyon. The wall required right here is 33 feet high, and the wall or fill required here is 26 feet high, under the Cabrillo Bridge. Myth. The project creates a dangerous, sharp right turn that will decrease pedestrian and bicycle safety. Okay, today, you come straight into the park and you make that sharp right turn in the heart of the plaza. The fact is that today, 512 cars, that's the red line, cross 137 pedestrians in this direction and 502 in this direction, or 630 pedestrians interfacing with those 512 cars, and this is 4 o'clock on a Saturday. In the future, the same 512 cars will turn, but the pedestrian count, as we have counted it, is down to 245 in this location. So it's less than half of the number of interactions. So the idea that the sharp right turn is creating a new danger, in fact, it's a danger which already exists in greater magnitude. Myth. The cost of the parking structure is too high for too few spaces. Fact. The structure contains 797 spaces, of which 260 are new additional spaces. The cost of the project includes many more benefits than new parking. It includes 6.3 acres of new parkland, the plazas, pedestrian activity, greatly improved access to the park and institutions. Employees will no longer need to park close in, And all 770 will be more available, 797 rather, will be more available to the public. Myth, the paid parking structure will limit access to the park. 84% of the parking on the Central Mesa will remain free. Myth, the project increases traffic into and through the park. Fact, the EIR found the project does not increase cut-through traffic because of design geometry, design speeds, and traffic calming. Myth, bicycle access is inadequate and the systems are unsafe. Fact, all aspects of the project conform to current city and AASHTO standards for bicycle transportation. The new city bicycle master plan designates the east-west route through the park to be a Class 3 bicycle facility, which basically is a 14-foot wide lane that shares where bikes and cars share the road. And bike traffic is not restricted in any other way in the park. Myth, the Alcazar lot will not function and will create greater congestion than today's condition. Fact, substantial data has been measured for all operations of circulation within the core of the park: trolleys, people parking, drop-offs, and vehicles. Our data and a computer simulation that we've done of the Alcazar parking lot show that the drop-off, valet, disabled parking, and through traffic all operate at good levels of service without congestion or safety issues within the Alcazar Garden. Now, in fact, the Alcazar Garden is, I believe it's 1.18 acres, and the Plaza de Panama is 1.35 acres. They're almost the same size. So it seems that if all these things are being accommodated in the Plaza de Panama today, they can be accommodated in the Alcazar lot. Myth, the disabled parking location and road crossings are unsafe and discriminate against the disabled. Fact, the Mayor's Committee on Disabilities reviewed the project and unanimously endorsed the project as a benefit to improved access throughout the project area. The accessible parking that will be provided will be closer than any other parking. Myth, closing the Cabrillo Bridge to traffic is easily accomplished and will meet the project goals. Fact, the EIR found that closing the Cabrillo Bridge creates significant unmitigable traffic impacts to A Street downtown, to 6th Avenue in Hillcrest, and to Robinson from 6th to Park. All three of these streets become so congested when you close the Cabrillo Bridge that cars that are headed for Park Boulevard have to go find these other streets, and the only way to accommodate them would be to widen those streets. I don't think that's likely to happen. Myth, removing parking from the plaza will allow cars to pass through, and that's an adequate solution. The problem isn't cars, it's parking. Fact, the EIR found that all alternatives, including the precise plan, the former Soho alternative, and the environmentally superior alternative, all have failure inside the core of the park because the roads cannot handle the volume of traffic. The only way to mitigate that congestion would be to widen the Prado and the Esplanade. Again, I don't think that's going to happen. Myth, the Lewis plan is favored by park institutions including the Old Globe, the Art Museum, the Fleet, the Natural History Museum, and the Zoo. Fact, we've talked to each of those institutions this week and confirmed they do not support the Lewis plan. Myth, more public discussion will lead to a better alternative. Fact, the issue of cars in the park has been debated in many plans for the last 55 years. No alternative has ever come close to balancing the diversity of issues as well as this plan. No other project has ever had leadership and funding, and no other project can be implemented because of that. Myth, the project is likely to cause delisting of the status of Balboa Park as a National Landmark Historic District. Fact, this week, city staff spoke with National Park Service staff who agreed that that was not true. The city and NPS conversation confirmed that this very week. They also agree that the EIR analysis of the historic impacts is correct. And lastly, they agree that the use of the rehabilitation standard is the appropriate standard for the park. We hope that you favor the project. We look forward to hearing what you and the public have to say about it, and that completes my presentation.
Thank you very much.